They told the world that air power belonged only to those with the deepest pockets, the most advanced factories, and the most tightly controlled supply chains. But then came a nation that tore up that script, built its own rules, and proved that dominance in the skies isn't sold, it's engineered, owned, and flown. Pakistan's jet strategy has thrown a stone into the calm, predictable pond of global defense thinking, and the ripples are being felt from Washington to Brussels. For decades, the belief has been that real air power is a privilege reserved for those who can afford it. Nations willing to pour billions into next-generation fighters, sprawling procurement programs, and endless research budgets. The West has built an entire military-industrial complex around this idea, with the assumption that high price equals high performance and therefore unquestionable superiority. But Pakistan, with its JF-17 Thunder program, has cracked that narrative wide open. Instead of trying to match Western jets dollar for dollar, Pakistan aimed to match them capability for capability at a fraction of the cost. It's not just a cheaper aircraft, it's a completely different economic model for military strength. When a nation can produce a fighter jet for tens of millions rather than hundreds of millions, it changes the playing field entirely. Suddenly, smaller nations that were priced out of modern air power are finding a way in, and that shakes the traditional power balance. Western defense officials don't just see a low-cost jet, they see a dangerous precedent. If countries can build credible air forces without spending like the Pentagon, the monopoly on aerial dominance starts to weaken. And make no mistake, the JF-17 isn't some budget knockoff that folds under pressure. It's fully capable of carrying modern missiles, engaging in both air-to-air and air-to-ground missions, and being upgraded with advanced avionics at a speed Western jets can only dream of. The very existence of a jet that can be mass-produced quickly, maintained cheaply, and still perform in real combat is deeply unsettling to a defense industry that thrives on complex, expensive, and slow-moving projects. Cost-effective innovation doesn't just disrupt the market, it disrupts strategy, alliances, and the economics of war. In many ways, Pakistan has taken the West's own playbook, deterrence through air superiority, and rewritten it for nations that cannot afford to play by the old rules. That is why this approach is called disruptive. It's not just about building a jet, it's about dismantling an illusion that only the wealthy can wield true power in the skies. One of the most unsettling elements for Western defense planners about Pakistan's jet program is its ability to sidestep the web of dependency that has kept so many nations tethered to Western supply chains for decades. Traditionally, when a country purchases fighter jets from the United States or Europe, they're not just buying the aircraft, they're buying into a long-term relationship where every spare part, software update, and weapons integration must pass through Western hands. This dependency isn't just about logistics, it's a strategic leash. It ensures that in times of political disagreement or shifting alliances, the supplier has the ability to delay, limit, or outright cut off critical support, effectively grounding a nation's air force without firing a single shot. Pakistan saw this vulnerability up close in the past, with restrictions and delays placed on Western-supplied jets whenever political tensions flared. The decision to work closely with China and develop local manufacturing capabilities for the JF-17 was more than an economic choice, it was a strategic act of liberation. By producing most of the jet domestically and integrating weapon systems from a variety of sources, Pakistan has built an air power platform that is immune to Western political leverage. The West can't withhold critical components because they don't control them. They can't dictate upgrade timelines because Pakistan manages its own. This independence is deeply disruptive to a defense ecosystem that relies heavily on keeping buyers in a constant cycle of dependence and expenditure. For smaller nations watching closely, the message is clear. Partnering outside the Western sphere and developing local assembly capabilities isn't just possible, it's effective. The fact that Pakistan can now maintain, upgrade, and even export its own jets without permission from a Western capital is a geopolitical shift in itself. It allows for faster adaptation to battlefield realities, more flexible foreign policy decisions, and a far greater degree of operational freedom. And for Western defense officials, that's a worrying precedent. It means the influence that once came bundled with defense sales is slipping away, replaced by a new model where nations can own and control their military assets without answering to Washington, London, or Paris. The fear isn't just about Pakistan's capability, it's about the example it sets for the rest of the world. In the world of modern defense, time is as much a weapon as technology. And here lies one of the most striking contrasts between Pakistan's jet approach and the West's. Western fighter programs like the infamous F-35 have become synonymous with years of development delays, ballooning budgets, and endless rounds of testing that often drag on so long that by the time a jet reaches operational status, parts of its technology are already outdated. This is not just inefficiency. It's a symptom of a system bloated with bureaucracy, political wrangling, and a tendency to prioritize perfection on paper over readiness in reality. Pakistan has flipped this model on its head. The JF-17 program, developed in partnership with China, operates on a leaner, faster, and far more adaptive cycle. New variants and upgrades are rolled out in years, not decades. The Block 3 version, with advanced radar, electronic warfare systems, and improved weapon capabilities, moved from concept to operational deployment in a time frame that would make Western defense planners wince. This speed doesn't mean cutting corners, it means focusing on achievable advancements, integrating proven technologies quickly, and responding to actual operational needs rather than chasing ever-moving, politically driven requirements. The effect of this agility is profound. While the West debates budgets and conducts yet another round of performance evaluations, Pakistan is already fielding upgraded aircraft and training pilots on the latest systems. In a real-world conflict scenario, this responsiveness could mean the difference between having an air force ready for emerging threats and being stuck waiting for a solution that arrives too late. For Western defense officials, this pace is deeply unsettling because it exposes a truth they would rather not acknowledge, that their expensive, drawn-out procurement processes are not the only way to achieve cutting-edge capability. If smaller nations can rapidly develop and deploy competitive fighter jets, without the labyrinth of delays and costs, it challenges the very foundation of how military power is built and maintained. Pakistan's speed undermines the assumption that complexity and time investment inherently lead to better results. Instead, it demonstrates that adaptability, focus, and a willingness to forego unnecessary over-engineering can produce an air power advantage faster and at a fraction of the cost, creating a model that others may be eager to replicate. One of the most disruptive consequences of Pakistan's jet program lies in its impact on the global arms market, particularly in the global south, where nations have long been dependent on Western or Russian suppliers for modern combat aircraft. For decades, the West has dominated military aviation exports, not only by offering technologically advanced jets, but also by leveraging those sales as a tool of foreign policy. The formula was simple. If you wanted cutting-edge air power, you paid premium prices and accepted the political strings that came with it. This arrangement left many developing nations with a stark choice: overspend their defense budgets to buy Western jets and remain locked into expensive maintenance and upgrade contracts, or settle for outdated, second-hand aircraft with limited capabilities. Pakistan's entry into this market with the JF-17 fundamentally changes that equation. Here is a modern, multi-role fighter that can hold its own in both air-to-air and air-to-ground missions, offered at a fraction of the cost of Western competitors with lower operational expenses and no crippling political conditions. Countries like Nigeria and Myanmar have already purchased the JF-17 and more are in talks, signaling a shift in where smaller nations are looking for their defense needs. Each sale represents more than just a financial transaction. It is a crack in the West's grip on a lucrative and strategically important export market. This disruption is particularly troubling for Western defense officials because arms sales have never been just about money. They are about influence, alliances, and long-term control over a buyer's defense infrastructure. Every JF-17 sale means a country is moving away from dependence on Western spare parts, Western training programs, and Western political leverage. It also sends a signal to other nations that there is a viable alternative to the old order, one where air power can be acquired without bending to the strategic interests of Washington, London, or Paris. The ripple effects extend beyond sales figures. If Pakistan can sell a credible combat aircraft to nations traditionally targeted by Western suppliers, it forces those suppliers to rethink their pricing, their sales strategies, and even their technology sharing policies. It creates competition in a market that has long been protected by political dominance as much as by engineering prowess. In this sense, the JF-17 is not just a military asset. It's an economic and diplomatic disruptor, one that is quietly rewriting the rules of how air power is bought and sold in the 21st century. What truly unnerves Western defense officials about Pakistan's jet program is that it is not merely a theoretical capability demonstrated in air shows or promotional videos. It is a combat-proven force that has faced real operational tests and delivered results. Many of the West's most advanced jets, despite their staggering price tags and sophisticated engineering, have spent years without engaging in high-intensity, contested, air-to-air combat. In contrast, Pakistan's JF-17 has been blooded in actual missions, not only in counter-terrorism operations, but also in direct engagements with rival air forces. The most notable example came during the 2019 Pakistan-India standoff, when the JF-17 played a critical role in an operation that resulted in the downing of Indian aircraft, an event that sent shockwaves through defense circles around the world. This was not a war game or a carefully staged drill. This was live combat under extreme political and operational pressure, and the aircraft performed as intended. Beyond the high-profile incidents, the JF-17 has been consistently deployed in counterinsurgency missions, precision strikes, and border patrols, building a track record of reliability in varied combat environments. These operational experiences feed directly into design improvements and pilot training programs, creating an iterative feedback loop that keeps the platform evolving in response to real battlefield demands. For Western defense officials, this is a troubling contrast. Many of their most prized aircraft are tested in controlled environments and optimized for hypothetical conflict scenarios, which may not reflect the unpredictable realities of modern warfare. The fact that Pakistan's jets have proven themselves in unpredictable high-stakes situations makes them far more than just paper threats. It also gives Pakistan a unique advantage in the global defense market. When a potential buyer asks if the aircraft has been tested in real combat, the answer is an unequivocal yes. This credibility is hard to match and adds to the jet's appeal, especially for nations that need immediate, dependable capability rather than an unproven promise of future performance. The combat-proven label also amplifies the psychological dimension of air power. Adversaries know the aircraft has worked under fire, which alters their strategic calculations. This is part of what makes Pakistan's approach so unsettling to the West. It demonstrates that cutting-edge effectiveness doesn't require spending hundreds of millions per jet, and that real-world results can trump theoretical specifications every time. At the heart of Pakistan's jet program lies a fundamental shift in the philosophy of air warfare, one that challenges the long-held assumptions of the Western defense establishment. For decades, Western military aviation has pursued the idea that superiority in the skies comes from pushing the boundaries of technology to the absolute limit, often resulting in aircraft so complex, costly, and maintenance-heavy that their deployment is as much a logistical exercise as it is a combat one. The West's mindset has been to design jets that aim for perfection on paper, integrating layers of advanced systems that often require years of testing, massive budgets, and extensive support infrastructure before they can be fielded at full capability. Pakistan has rejected this notion in favor of a model built on adaptability, rapid upgrade cycles, and practical readiness. The JF-17 embodies this philosophy. Modular design allows new avionics, radar systems, and weapon integrations to be added without redesigning the entire platform. This adaptability means the aircraft can be quickly tailored to meet evolving threats and operational realities, rather than being locked into a single rigid configuration for decades. The focus is on producing a jet that can be flown, maintained, and upgraded efficiently within Pakistan's own industrial capacity, ensuring operational availability remains high even in prolonged conflict scenarios. In the Western model, technological overreach can lead to jets being grounded for long stretches while awaiting upgrades or maintenance. In Pakistan's approach, the emphasis is on keeping aircraft in the air where they can actually influence the battlefield. This represents a philosophical inversion. Success is measured by combat readiness and flexibility, not by ticking every possible technology box. For Western defense officials, this approach is troubling because it suggests that smaller nations can bypass the traditional dependency on ultra-high-cost platforms and still achieve strategic parity in certain combat environments. It also poses a challenge to the Western defense industry's narrative that more expensive automatically means more effective. By focusing on what is necessary and deployable, Pakistan has created a platform that can evolve in response to conflict, rather than waiting for the next multi-billion-dollar design to replace it. This agility, both technological and strategic, marks a break from the old way of thinking and signals to other nations that there is a viable alternative to the Western model, one that trades excess complexity for operational resilience. That is why Western defense officials see it not just as a different choice, but as a disruptive threat to the very principles on which their air power dominance has been built. What Pakistan has done with its jet program is far more than build an aircraft. It has built a challenge to the global order of military power. It has exposed the myth that only the richest can command the skies, broken free from the political chains of foreign suppliers, and proven in real combat that cost-effective innovation can rival billion-dollar machines. It has disrupted the arms market, reshaped how smaller nations view their strategic options, and replaced the slow, overcomplicated approach with a philosophy of speed, adaptability, and readiness. This is why Western defense officials call Pakistan's jet strategy disruptive, because it doesn't just threaten their aircraft sales or their influence, it threatens the very foundation of their control. And once an idea like this takes flight, it's almost impossible to shoot it down.